I peered through the crack between two boards and saw Abba reposition the daggers behind his back. Yahweh, I beg you, protect the only family I have. For the 1,000th time, I lamented King Saul's disobedience that led to this moment. Every life lost in an Amalekite raid surely weighed like an avalanche on the king's shoulders. Or did it? Some still thought Yahweh merciless for commanding Israel to completely destroy the nations of Canaan when Joshua led Israel. Granted, it would have been horrific. Hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, would have died. Instead, God's people showed mercy and hoarded treasure. Now, the screams of my Jezreelite neighbors testified that more generations of men, women, and children would die for Israel's disobedience. How many could have been saved if Saul had destroyed the Amalekites? The sound of hoofbeats arrived at our door. With one hand on his daggers, Abba raised his other hand in greeting and strolled through our curtained doorway. I wanted to burst from my hiding place and let my daggers fly, but he'd taught me better during my first hunting lesson. The rabbit that runs gets boiled in a pot. The curtain closed behind him, hiding Abba from view. "I greet you, valiant men of Amalek," he said. "Take whatever you like. If you had waited another week, I would have harvested all my figs for you." Abba's tight chuckle preceded the sounds of scuffling, grunting, and then several sickening thuds. Angry shouting quickly followed, foreign words. In all the time we'd lived among them, Abba never taught me their language. I knew only Aramaic, the language of trade, and Hebrew, the language of our God and his people. Abba stumbled through the doorway, blood dripping from his eyebrow, nose, and mouth. He fell on the packed dirt floor, rolled on his back, and lifted both hands in surrender as a man knelt astride him. The man held one of Abba's daggers at his throat and shouted in his foreign tongue. Abba calmly answered. A slow, terrifying smile curved the man's lips, and he stood. What had Abba said to gain his freedom? When two more raiders entered, the first man pointed at Abba, and the two men promptly helped him stand. The first man was obviously their leader. Abba bowed politely to the chieftain, a smile affixed on his bloodied face when he straightened. Surprisingly, the Amalekite commander returned his bow. How had Abba won such favor? When the chieftain and his men turned to leave, Abba shouted in their language. Their leader turned, brows lifted in challenge. He examined Abba's dagger still in his hand, admiring it with a chuckle. Abba shouted again and extended his hand, clearly demanding his dagger be returned. Abba, no. Let him take the dagger and leave.